Welcome to Everything is Changing. I am Ahmetcan Uzlaşık. Perspective is everything, and everything is changing. Welcome to Everything is Changing. Today I am here with Alexey Zotov, Managing Director of Air Cargo Green Capabilities. We're going to talk about sustainability in air freight, how the industry is changing, what is real, what is difficult, and whether greener logistics is actually possible at scale. Alexey, great to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you. And thank you, Ahmetcan. All good, all good. Thank you for invitation. Very timely topic, I would say. For us, it's like being manager director of Air Cargo Green Capabilities more than 3 years and working for the industry more than 20 years. Basically, I can maybe give some useful comments for the audience here and share my small
It's
feedback.
our pleasure to have you. So perhaps I would like to start with something very, very simple, because I also don't know the answer.
Okay.
So Alexey, what is the difference between air freight and air cargo? Why don't we just call it air cargo?
Yeah, very good question, basically. And we call our company Air Cargo Green Capabilities. Yes, not just air freight, because I would say that cargo is old school word and everybody just get used to it. And freight is a bit like more fancy. Maybe for somebody a bit more complicated and complex, because sometimes freight is the really just can include different descriptions. For example, freight could be sea freight, air freight, road feeder service, and all of this consists of the word freight. Yeah, that's why. So just to be on the same page with all these different dictionaries, I think somebody using the freight, but in terms of common sense, I think it's more or less the same.
Very good explanation. So I would like to learn more about your company and what you do. So for people unfamiliar with air freight logistics, what exactly does Air Cargo Green Capabilities do, and where do you fit into the global supply chain?
Yeah, good question. Thanks so much. Being part of bigger group, Air Cargo Networks, we are part of the group with the holding Emirates in Abu Dhabi. So we have operational office here in Luxembourg, and we are responsible for development European market. We have licenses of IATA for freight forwarding and GSAs, and we do what all air freight industry is doing. Actually, we move freight from point A to point B, from airport to airport. We help our customers to make it a bit more sustainable, I would say. Yeah, that's why we are green, and we try to find for them kind of eco-friendly strategic solutions, starting with the eco packaging and using mostly electric vehicles, for example, then using more airlines with the really prioritize sustainable aviation fuel. Sometimes it works, sometimes not, because actually I used to work in airline shoes like 15 years, and I understand the economy of scale of airlines, and 35% of the cost of airlines consist of fuel cost, basically. And especially now, yes, with the Gulf crisis, what we see, the fuel cost of all airlines in the world increased almost 2 times more. And sometimes it's really difficult to have and find a balance between just additional cost and this sustainable solution which we are using. And I'm talking about sustainable air fuel. Why maybe, we will talk a bit more later about this CARSIA program.
Exactly. I was planning to ask about sustainable aviation fuel, but let's start with the sustainability part here, because you mentioned it. Your company puts sustainability at the center of its identity, which is something very rare to see, I would say, because most companies, of course, have so many reports on sustainability. They are trying to prove that they're sustainable, but you literally put green capabilities in your name, which is, I would say, very rare. What made you decide to build a logistics company around green capabilities rather than treating sustainability as something extra or add-on?
Yeah, it started actually 4 or 5 years ago when we decided to go for this initiative. Started with the name, and actually, this is, I would say, part of our DNA of the company. Yes, and sustainability for our company not just a goal; it's kind of foundation of the business. All our solutions are deeply committed to integrating sustainable business practices into every aspect of our logistics operations. Yes, and as I mentioned, yes, from reduction carbon emission to adapting eco-friendly technologies. Our aim to just is to make tangible different and fight against to climate change. I would say it's sometimes costly exercise, and not all partners are okay with it, and sometimes we really just start with from the scratch with them, and we start developing, like we have consulting project with couple airports where we developing firstly eco-friendly strategy for airports, and just after that we go only to next practical steps. So we start with the strategy. We fix some practical step for next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then we help them just to start implementing it.
Well, we're talking about sustainability, but we also know that air cargo is often criticized as one of the most carbon intensive forms of transportation. How do you respond to people who say sustainable aviation in an air cargo company is almost a contradiction, perhaps?
Honestly, I just it's like elephant in the room. I agree with all these observations, and it would be not honest to deny that all this CO2 emissions doesn't influence on our planet. And we are talking about air freight and air cargo industry itself. So yes, it's one of the biggest CO2 producer. That's why actually we before to solve the problem, we decided to really just calculate it, estimate it somehow. Yeah, that's why we just really using our raw CO2 emission calculator. Yes, and we understand carbon footprint at the first step towards reducing it. Yes, and after that we empower our customers. We offer CO2 emissions actions, and together we try to really make it a little bit better. And it's not just it. And if you start talking about air freight industry, I think all airlines should start with themselves. And we start with ourselves as well. So we calculate our direct emissions from company vehicles, the energy we use in the office, and also kind of indirect influence what we have on our storage and everything. Yes, it's kind of a mindset change, and when your mindset is changing a little bit, you can try to speak on the same language with your partners, being airlines, handling companies, strikers. I should say that, especially in Europe, this is very hot topic, and so it's really works. People understand that we speak on the same language.
Well, here I think another important question is obviously you talk about digital tools, CO2 tracking, and emissions transparency. Do you think customers today genuinely care about the environmental impact of shipping, or is price and speed still what drives most decisions?
Good question. Yes, and there is different factors, yes, which influence on customers' behavior, customer final decision, and right, you are price is sometimes main driver. Honestly, yes, we cannot divide from it. And if we are talking about other factors, despite price, maybe yes, and speed and quality of transportation, then I would say right now number 4 priority is yes, getting to be a sustainable factor. It's not just only for air cargo, it's also very valid for passengers airlines. Yes, for you being passenger, you have the option to buy the different kind of tickets with the CO2 coverage and everything. But I would say that we see in common, and especially we work with several airlines, particularly in Europe. One of the main topic for them still kind of digitalization of the process and how to really just make it connected to better sustainable initiatives. Lufthansa Cargo has initiative with one record implementation, digital booking platforms. FedEx Express, they have artificial intelligence route optimizations, and also they're talking about drone delivery system. Qatar Airways, they have their own digital cargo platform, also with the CO2 calculator. Cathay Pacific, also one of the active participants of supply chain in terms of sustainability, and they've been participating one record initiatives. So it's all basically in common influence on the global trend of the industry. Yes, it's not all industry, it's maybe like 5-10%, but this is crucial 5-10%, which is really can help to the industry in maybe several years already, I would say.
And Alexey, so you mentioned a bit about the sustainable aviation fuel, or shortly SAF. We know that the industry frequently promotes SAF as the future, but some critics argue that it's still too expensive and not available at scale. And some say that there are lots of greenwashing going around this SAF promotions. So, in your opinion, and I know that you have been working on this as well, how realistic is SAF as a real solution in the next 10 years?
I would say that it's absolutely realistic. This is the reality which we have right now. Yes, coming to airport, you can really have a look on this sustainable fuel. And I would say that adaptation already there. Yes, still a lot of work to do with the even technical parts at airport because not all airports just have some kind of quantity and quality of this sustainable air fuel, and this is one of the challenges of the industry at the moment. If we are talking about common practices, yes, some big airports like Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Shanghai, Hong Kong, you name it, yes, they got quite high or big choice of sustainable air fuel suppliers at present moment. But if we are talking about niche airports somewhere in Central Asia, for example, yes, you can forget about it. And so basically, this is airlines' choice if they would like to use these airports or they really just need to fly directly, for example, yes, to achieve minimum level of this sustainable air fuel that they use. But it's also it's complicated process. It's also connected to all supply chain transparency, I would say. And here, this is not just a job, not only for airlines, it's complex procedure for airports, handling agent and fuel suppliers. And this is where we also doing consulting for different airlines to be really more effective and efficient and to really make it more productive in terms of the costs for final partners, final customers, and the customers are different. Yes.
Yeah. So now let's talk with numbers, I would say. I have two related questions, and I got those numbers from your website and from your article. So in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, your company declared that you reduced your direct environmental impact by 7%. First, I would ask, how did that work? But also, another important point is that, again, in your website, it mentions that 99.9% of emissions come indirectly from the wider logistics network rather than your own offices or vehicles. Does that make meaningful change somehow difficult when so much of these emissions depend on airlines, airports, and your global partners?
Yeah, thanks so much. Very good question. And this is what exactly I meant that if you would like to speak with the customers and partners the same language, you should show your own showcases first. Yes, and with this direct environment impact by 7%, basically it was a small achievement by our philosophy. Yes, how we try to start with ourselves and just improve it. Yes, by a little bit by energy in the office a little bit by changing our own vehicles from gasoline and benzene to electric stuff. Yeah, in common, it worked during just 1 year, yes, to 2024, and last year it was a little bit more. If we are talking about dependency on the partners, I think it should go not just only from commercial parties. It should be covered by regulators of the industry, being IATA or ICAO. If you are speaking about air freight, for example, particularly. One of the biggest challenge for industry right now, it's carbon emissions regulations and special credits, which calls CARSIA. Yes, and this program was basically initiated more than 10 years already by a different regulator. And right now, what we see, carbon credit prices are really just increasing little by little. I can speak about it a little bit more if it's really interested for you. But the real program will start only in 2 years. At the same time, airlines should be ready for all these CARSIA credits already now, I would say.
From your point of perspective as a professional, just let's for a second forget that you're the managing director of Air Cargo Green Capabilities, because I don't want to create any bad blood between your organization and different organizations, because I know that there's also a huge competition in the logistics sector. But we know that just like you, many companies publish sustainability claims, carbon calculators, and ESG reports. Again, from your perspective as a professional, how much of the logistics sector is making real operational change, and how much is still, would you say, greenwashing?
From my own opinion, it's like it's just only beginning, and maybe less than 5% of all supply chain or logistic industry really doing something from the worst to real deals, to real figures, yes, which you can really calculate and estimate somehow. Yes, we see a lot of customers and partners, yes, they prioritize the trade lanes, for example, with the special highest environmental impact and trying to reduce CO2 emission, for example, or using some electric trucks or special warehousing provisions, but it's still I would say only just beginning of the really big good trend. And if we are talking about full industry, yes, as I mentioned, I think it's like 3-5% who is really just keen on this trend. At the same time, if you would like to split all industry by geographical areas, so Europe, United States, it's still one of the leaders. I would say it's not 5-10%, it's like maybe 20-25 there. Here at the same time, yes, maybe in kind of Africa, Central Asia, it's a little bit less by objective reasons.
But you say there's a positive trend.
It's definitely positive trend. It's really just life, I think. Yes, it started with the passenger airlines industry, and the air freight and air cargo just followed the trend well. I think a little bit slow, but follow.
So, Alexey, my last two questions, and I would like to have short answers from you. First one is, obviously it's a long question, but where is the place of AI in your operations? In an article you published that I read about digitalization and sustainability, I read that AI route optimization, for example, in your industry could cut emissions perhaps up to 5%, maybe even more right now. But so again, where is the place of AI in your operation?
Honestly, this is the biggest, I mean, not only for our operations, but for all businesses operation, AI is a huge instrument right now. Yes, it's not that just 5%, it's like 30-40%.
Crazy.
I would say the influence, yes, on the business, and this is what our own AI cargo assistant, for example, is doing, and really helping our partners and customers to make their shipments request more sustainable, more efficient, and effective. But this is our own small example, basically, and for the industry, I think it's even much more.
Okay, so I'm not very sure we have an international organization that organizes air cargo operations. A higher authority, a multilateral organization. Which institution would be in charge of that? Alexey?
Basically, there is a ICAO, yes, International Cargo Association Organization, which is the main regulator of all sustainable and green initiatives in the industry, I would say. And IATA actually helps a lot as well. And TIACA got some initiatives. So this is three main regulators in the industry. Basically, everybody follows, and we speak with them a lot as well.
Amazing. So imagine for a second, I'm making you the president of all of these organizations, all of these international institutions. If you could change one thing about the global air freight industry tomorrow to make it genuinely more sustainable, what would it be?
Yes, very good question. I think I would start with the just basic small trainings for all the stuff like we are doing, for example, for IATA, we have dangerous good courses or cargo basic. Yes, I will start with this kind of green sustainable courses, and it's really important to change a little bit mindset, not just for manager director or for CEO who is responsible for the sustainability, but for basic load master who is really just doing his job, and he got sometimes much more better initiative for the industry than CEO sitting in his comfortable chair.
Alexey Zotov, thank you very much for joining Everything is Changing. And thank you very much for your insightful answers.
Thank you, man. Thanks so much.